Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
She is not only an amazing Reiki practitioner, but she offers so much insight to make your life better and move it along. And Annie Baker Atwood is back with us. How are you doing today, Annie?
I am doing well.
I love when we get together because sometimes we talk about things that don't seem like they connect with Reiki, but in a universal way, they are connected. So today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Define that.
Okay. So I looked it up because I am very academic in a lot of ways. And it's
when you used to be a teacher. You used to be a teacher.
Yeah. And I have a master's degree in urban and environmental policy of all things. And so we had to look up a lot of stuff.
I'm going to have to look that up, but please continue.
So it's when you doubt your abilities and feel like a fraud. And what happens is people overcompensate. And so you'll encounter them in the workplace and they have certain characteristics, but once you can understand that this person is just feeling insecure, then you can, as an experienced person on the team in a business, you can provide a framework of support for this person so that they're not quite so brash.
And as you're saying that, I'm trying to rewind to people I've worked with and see if I can identify those people, not necessarily that they have imposter syndrome, but the ones that were insecure, the ones that were brash, the ones that just were hard to work with, maybe if they were covering up for something. That being said, is it just a lack of security within themselves, or are they truly not qualified for the job?
It can be either. I have been put in a lot of jobs that I have no business being in because I can talk a good game. And and then it's kind of, okay, you're here, fake it till you make it, and you were hired for a reason. So in that case, I didn't feel like an imposter. I felt like a newcomer. And so I was very open to getting information. So one of your chakras, your gut chakra, we're back to that one, forget the solar plexus. If you are, and here's a difference, that's a good difference. If you are a newcomer and fully own not only your strengths, but also your limitations, and you're going to get up on stage, you're going to have butterflies in your stomach, just kind of that, oh, it's go time. This is great. I am going to get up on stage, and you might feel a scooch of nervousness, but it brings out your A game. If you are an imposter, you're going to feel like you're going to throw up because you're going to, and regardless of your abilities, if you feel like an imposter, you feel so exposed that someone might find out I'm not the real deal. And that can happen in business. It can happen in parenting. It can happen social situations. It can happen throughout. And you can kind of, have a good game going, but now it's a month into school, whether you're new in college, whether it's you're the newbie on the team, sports teams, whatever. And that's when you kind of go, uh-oh, are they going to find out?
You realize that you're more vulnerable for them finding out that you're living a lie.
Yes, you feel very vulnerable. And so you kind of put out a lot of
blocks
and armor. So I know one that happens with women is sign up for everything. They overbook their life so that they are constantly busy, so that then they can post on social media how busy they are. And it's by saying how busy they are that validates that they're doing the right thing. You know, I bring my child to this, there's a lot of thises with how many places you need to bring your child and what you need to be doing. And there's no room for you to breathe. There's no room for any of that downtime, because if you have downtime, someone might find out that you're not the real deal. And so it's gotten worse with social media. Specifically, I will name Facebook as a place where people will state, I don't judge, or, you know, humble brag, or whatever those like hashtag thingies are. It's like, well, if you say you don't judge, you're probably judging. And if you're feeling inferior, you not only judge yourself, but you also start judging everybody who's supposedly your superior. And my mantra for your throat chakra, no, I'm sorry, for your heart chakra is I choose joy, which means you are choosing to not be inferior or superior to anyone, which doesn't mean somebody can't be better than you or more experienced, but that doesn't mean that they're superior. It just means that they have more experience in that area. And a lot of people don't agree with that. You know, they want to have that superiority because they've worked for it. And I totally agree with that. That you should own your experience.
So I want to ask you, and as you're talking about it, especially the busy mom going all over the place, drop off here, pick up there, blah, 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 mom Uber. I'm seeing people I know that do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm trying to think if they are dealing with imposter syndrome and what it might be. You know, what are they hiding? Is it their perceived ability to be a mom? Is it their job? Could it be a bunch of different things? I don't know that they necessarily have that, or they're just running and don't want to face themselves.
Yeah, it could be either. It could be either. And the marker of it is how are they defensive when they're called out on it, or are they simply, yeah, I just signed up for too many things because they all look so interesting. When my daughter was in college, I asked her, you know, oh, you know, what courses are you taking? And she listed off 6 classes that she was taking on top of being on the sailing team. Now, we went to the same college. And I was like, wow, you know, that's a lot. What's going on? She goes, oh, they were also interesting. And I meant to drop one, but I just couldn't decide which one to drop. So I kept them all. And I thought, wow, we really did talk very differently. I tried to sign up for as few courses as I could, and she was signing up for tons of classes because they were fascinating to her, not because she felt like an imposter, but just her honesty of, I just couldn't get rid of any of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different reason, because I know somebody else, and I don't think she's so genuine. I don't think it's imposter syndrome, but she's always running here, there, and everywhere because I truly think that she's afraid to face herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she always struggles with her purpose and direction and
Yes.
abundance. She's always
Yes.
saying, I got to make more money. I mean, and I tell her, then do it. You can. You just have the right mindset. You need to be more organized. But I think she just kind of scatters and runs from that. I don't think it's imposter syndrome, but then there's others. I could, you know, in my mind, I can pick somebody who would definitely fit that that role for sure, without a doubt.
And it's hard with energy work because
Mm.
what am I paid to do? I'm paid to waggle my hands over people. I know I'm doing channeling and, refreshing, but you can't see it. So there can be this sense of, am I really doing something of service here?
Mhm.
And they, when you're writing a business plan, you get asked, do you believe that you make a difference with what you do? And I know absolutely I do, 100%. But if you can't make that statement, if you can't believe in what you're doing adds value, then you do kind of lose sight of purpose and aren't really sure where to move forward. And that really blocks your throat chakra.
Hmm.
And so you'll talk around in circles. My sister was explaining that one time she was in a meeting and somebody kept interrupting and interrupting and interrupting. And I said, well, she really needed you to take notice that she was there. And if you're needing, or in teaching, we call them bids for attention. So a child will, pull on me, this is that one, this is that one, this is that one. And those bids for attention in a child are perfectly appropriate because they really do need you to notice them because they are working on a skill and they are very proud. And I don't know if you remember the 5-year-old phase, but some of the drawings really aren't representational yet. So they'll come over and they'll show me a drawing. And my first question, I always smile. That's the best way to meet a bid for attention is smile. And then I would say, what would you like me to notice first? Because I had no idea what this thing was. And so
That's good. Keep that in mind. Got to keep that in mind because
yeah, what would you like me to notice first?
And the last thing you want to say is,
What is it?
What is it? Exactly.
Yeah. And I teach the parents, that covers a lot. But somebody who hasn't been supported that way will kind of whack you over the head with, I need you to notice me now. And if someone has felt kind of squashed down and not heard and not welcomed with joy, they will do a lot more bids for attention. And depending on where they are in the structure of a company or an organization, are they new? Are they one of the founders? That's going to look different. So if you're new and you want people to notice you, some people go about it by just doing a really great job. And some people go about it by announcing that they're doing a really great job.
Right.
Which can get tiresome. It can get tiresome. It happens on boats too. So the kind of boat that I raced on Long Island Sound, we sailed with about 9 people. And if you're new to the crew, there's kind of this vetting of who are you? Do you know how to sail? Do you know how to race? And there's kind of a jockeying of, I want the big job. I want to be noticed. And it's really fascinating. And I never felt a need to do that. And so people would come on Adam's boat and they'd be like, well, what do you do? I'm like, nothing. And then the skipper would come in and say, Annie's an All-American from Tufts. That's it. She's our wind goddess. That's what she does. And sometimes they would accept that, and other times they just had a need to try to outdo me. And I'm like, all right. And so there's the competition piece within imposter syndrome, and the constant comparison, which also happens on Facebook. All of those perfect kids, every single post. There's some families that have completely perfect children.
Or the perfect life. And let me tell you,
yes.
it ain't true.
I know. And so you're like, okay, so maybe that
isn't what you think, what you're seeing, even though maybe one person is posting it thinking, great, this is great. Their other half may know a reality, and it's just not true. It's not. It just isn't.
And everything's filtered too.
And there's that.
I look at some of these pictures and I think, wow, that's not how you look at school.
Yeah.
I think, okay, maybe that's the 10% of your life that feels really solid, and work from there. Always use your strengths to support your exploration of what you're going to do next. Because I'll have, in conversations, and we'll say, oh yeah, high school was the best time of my life. And I'll say, oh, tell me more. And, oh, I was a football star. I'll bring it back to them. Wow, it felt really good to be good at something, didn't it? It felt really good to use your full physical body every single day. And so I'll help them translate what it was that felt amazing. And then, talk about how they could do that now, that you don't have to live in the past. You can take all of the great feelings. And like, I loved playing field hockey. I played field hockey 4th grade through 12th grade. And and the fall is all about field hockey. And it really wasn't so much, whacking a ball, which does feel good, but it was getting out in nature and exercising hard, 5 days a week. And that can be done. That can be done as an adult too. That's not necessarily, just what it is. So imposter syndrome, depending on which of the chakras it hits, can sound differently. So in the voice chakra, they'll, as I said, interrupt and repeat things to, that's their bid for attention, or their way of having those armors up. I talked about in the gut, whether it's butterflies or you're feeling like you're throwing up.
Sure.
If you are feeling insecure, which is, part of feeling like a fraud, you may have a lot of digestive issues. And, a lot of time in the bathroom because you just don't feel secure. And so it messes with your digestive tract.
There, to center back what you just said, Annie, there is a direct connection from this to your stomach. So
yeah,
if this is not on par, on target, or this is hiding something, as let's say you're an imposter, it's going to travel down to your stomach. You're going to have issues.
Yeah. The your third eye, the brow, they glare at everybody.
How do you mean?
They do the scrunched up face when you give them information. And they're not really open to receiving information because then they would need to admit that they didn't know that. Whereas if you give me a report and I look at it, I'll say, oh, okay. And my eyebrows will go up and I'll dial in. If I'm confused, I'll tilt my head like, and my eyebrows will come down. If I am defensive, which is, that's when the imposter syndrome comes in. Your eyebrows come in and you squinch. And as a kindergarten teacher, you get to read faces a lot because they're such cute little faces. And so you really get to see the pure acceptance of information. And you don't always see that in adults.
And it's also the scrunching when they're the imposter. We're trying to make you feel inferior so they can rise above. Like, I've got this. Really? Don't worry about that. Meanwhile, they don't want to accept the information because they probably don't even know how to deal with it or how to respond to it. When questioned, I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'll just
right. And you can make up a lot of stuff, and not kind of get caught on it. There's a lot of experts on a lot of things, and you can call yourself whatever you want. So if you see any of these self-help, I'm a coach. Well, I'm a happiness coach. I'm a butterfly coach. I'm a wellness coach. There are, and I read, a lot. I read a lot. And I always read their qualifications because I want to know. And that's also training from policy school, is if somebody's writing a policy, you really want to know what their not only their qualifications, but kind of where their frame of reference is coming from.
Who they
Especially,
are.
Specifically with my degree, it was urban and environmental policy and applied child development. So I have a master's basically in family policy and how to support disenfranchised mothers through services. And what could you put in place in terms of policy? You need not just a job, but you need food, shelter, healthcare, childcare, and transportation in order to really elevate a family out of poverty.
Annie, what do you do in a situation where either you are the imposter or you're dealing with one? So let's say I don't want to be an imposter anymore. You got me. Somebody's watching, listening.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And if you are feeling like you are the imposter, there's usually some kind of chip on your shoulder that is pretty easy to recognize. So it might be, oh, well, I didn't go to those fancy schools. I, worked. And as soon as you're having an I and they, you're probably feeling at odds. And so look at what it is that they have that you're feeling like you don't. And ask yourself, is that really true? Is that really true? It may be true about the schools that you went to, but what kind of a student were you? Because I know plenty of people who go to really, good colleges, but they're not really curious learners. And so they just go through and they take their classes and, regurgitate what's being asked of them, but they're not challenging it. They're not diving in.
They're just going through the motions to say, hey, yeah, I went to blank blank blank. We're not talking about your GPA or anything like that. It's just
because I went there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how you can work around that. For the longest time, I felt like I was an imposter for running. Kind of an interesting thing. And finally, I had to acknowledge, actually, no, you are running. You are, I would say I'm someone who runs rather than I'm a runner, because I grew up in Boston and the Boston Marathon, and, you know, only real runners could run a marathon. So, and that's not true. You can run a marathon, train for it, and do it. You know, it's the same distance, whether you're the first person over or the last person over.
And it's the same distance whether you're running on your own or in a marathon, you're still a runner. If you're logging X amount of miles, you're a runner. Yeah,
you're a runner.
I crystal clear have what you're saying. And I used to joke with a coworker. We did a charity event, and it was like, I don't know, a 3K or something like that. And I used to run. I need to get back into it, but I used to joke, say, yeah, I just ran a marathon. It wasn't a marathon, it was a 3-something K. But it was like a running joke, and then she would like correct me, that wasn't a marathon. I'm like, well, it was for me.
Yeah, exactly. And so the other part of your question,
dealing with
one, you can take the high road or the low road. The low road is poking holes in their performance, or, you know, asking those snarky questions that really show that they are an imposter.
Purposely peeling back their layers.
Yeah. And it's true, but it's not kind.
Yeah.
True, but not kind. So the high road is to look at what they are bringing to the table and add on from there. So look for their base of security, and then frame where they're going to go based on what you're noticing that they're bidding for attention, or, you know, putting up those walls. So you can say, oh, wow, you know, I love how you write. That is really, really solid. Can I take some of this and check in with it? I've also found having a one-on-one with somebody. So if you meet with them individually rather than in a group, you can say, you know, this lead in gets people's attention. You know, I happen to know this group, and I know that if you start with, I really noticed when, you know, I was looking at this article, and this article, these were the common themes that came out, rather than, well, I went to such and such a school, and at such and such a school, we were taught to look through all these articles. You know, just start with the good stuff.
Yeah, we're just about out of time, actually.
Yeah.
But I got to believe if somebody is dealing with imposter syndrome, they're not a complete imposter. Like, I don't think you would just take a job and know nothing about it. You probably have a foundation, a baseline, but the stuff above it, you're kind of clueless with and kind of fake it until you eventually, hopefully, make it. So yeah, to your point, you know, on the high road, when you're dealing with somebody in that situation, take that and magnify it, that little piece there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not actually based on reality, right? As you said, you have some good stuff to bring. You're just feeling insecure about the other people around you.
Right.
And they're going to respond to you a lot more compassionately if you acknowledge where you are on your journey and saying, yeah, I'm here, I'm excited, I can't wait to learn more.
Great talk today. And it's so interesting that, you know, you practice Reiki. This isn't really connected to Reiki, but in some ways it is. And I got to believe too, if you're doing Reiki or chakra balancing, whatever, on somebody, you probably pick up the fact that they're not being true to themselves and to others in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And the whole thing about Reiki is it applies to every part of life, because if you're aligned, you're strong.
Without a doubt. And I felt it before, having even a recent session. Just a friend of a friend said, "Hey, this is what I do." And I'm like, "Okay, why not?" And what a difference. Like, just the clarity, the quiet calm. I call it a quiet calm. Like, whew, everything was crazy.
Yeah.
Things are still crazy around you, but it's like, I can navigate through. And there's medication for that, but I don't do that. Some people.
No, I know. So choose joy.
Choose joy.
And speak kindly to yourself and others. And as I tell my sons, joy is choosing to be neither inferior nor superior to anyone. Lead with your heart.
I got one question for you. When you think choose joy and you want to connect it to the heart chakra, are you just thinking it? And then
No, you're feeling it.
Should you think it?
No.
Okay.
Don't overthink.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the stuff for the rest of us that we always question. Like, I want to do it, but I'm not sure how to do it.
Yeah. Just feel it.
Feel it.
And seriously, put your hand over your heart and breathe into it.
But the best part.
And that's in one of my Reiki to the rescues.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got to tell everybody. I just want to say, if you feel it, others are going to feel it. So
yeah.
redbootsreiki.com. Do you have links to your videos, your YouTube channel? I know you do Reiki Rescue.
Yep. And it's kind of down. It says, channels or whatever. But the my YouTube channel is a lot of fun. And that you can also type in Red Boots Reiki or Annie Baker Atwood, and it comes up.
You have such
and subscribe.
And please do get your notifications.
Please do.
Know when there's a new one. You have such great insight. Always great talking with you, Annie. Really is.
I know. I have so much fun doing this.
Hey, and I learn. And what do? I walk around like I'm the smartest guy in the world.
Yes, you are.
Right over there. redbootsreiki.com. Go there
and find my YouTube channel, because every week I release a Reiki to the Rescue segment, and they're only 1 minute and 15 seconds.
And we got a busy life, so get what you need.
Get what you need.
Yeah. All right, Annie. Next time, looking forward to it.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.